Hey guys, welcome along. Joining me today, the very wonderful Chris Tilley and Keza MacDonald. And we also have an exceptionally special guest today. Now, I'm coming to you, just hold on a minute,
I knew it wasn't me you were talking about.
An exceptionally special guest today. Now, when most boys his age are just kicking a football up against the side of a house or running down the high street, being chased by a fat butcher with a little dog and a string of sausages in his mouth, this guy has been stuck in his bedroom, beavering away over his ZX81 for hours at a time to bring us something quite phenomenal. A brand new game. A brand new style of game, even. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the mighty Jonathan Ross. Thanks for joining us.
I did use a ZX. I don't know how you guessed that.
I thought you might have done. Did you have the 16K RAM pack on the back?
I did. You know what? You've already exhausted my knowledge on such primitive technology. My wife used to write her own basic code, though. You know, when computer games first came out, I used to buy them magazines that just had page after page of code that you typed in.
And she made one mistake.
One mistake, and you had to go back and do it all again. And then all you got on screen was a kind of like badly typed thing like, you go in a room, there is a candle. Do you A, pick up candle, B, ignore candle? That was kind of the level of gameplay, but gripping for its time.
Gripping for its time. So, and now you've made a game.
I've made a game, but I haven't done the coding, I've got to be honest. I mean, We've used Unity, which I know is probably, I'm going to upset people now, the dummies coding. Okay, so I've been told even I could learn how to code using Unity, but I haven't done it because I figure it's like when I used to sort of do radio stuff, I didn't always drive the desk. You know, sometimes if you're kind of just worrying about what it looks like or what you want to say, sometimes you don't necessarily want to do that as well, I think. And also, I'm lazy. So those two reasons combined for me to employ far smarter people to do that for me. And we kind of, I mean, the idea of me getting involved in gaming is to set up a small studio, a fun studio, something where we can actually make a few games. This isn't me making, this isn't, and I haven't seen that many of them, but people have asked me, is it a sort of celeb vanity project? But it's not that. I'm not kind of doing it because I want to somehow get my name over the gaming world. You know, I just love games, love playing games, like talking about games. So I thought it would be fun to be involved in the creative process of actually trying to bring some ideas to kind of the gaming community.
So we better say the name of the game.
Yes. I'm really bad at plugging because I always feel a bit embarrassed. A bit embarrassed, and B, I'm not that interested in plugging. So the game is called Catcha Alien, and the reason why we're talking about it again now, it actually came out at the end of last year, is because we've upgraded it, we've changed it, we've smoothed it out a little bit, and also we're going free on lots of different platforms now. When we released it initially, it was the 69p model on iOS only. Which didn't work for us really. I mean, we actually sold quite a lot, and to reward and thank the people who supported us when it first came out, we're giving them quite a lot of in-game credits. So you have to either earn, which will take you many, many, many years of labour, or you buy. So we're kind of, hopefully, smoothing that over. But now we're going free, and we're on Google as well, and Android, and I think it's on Kindle as well. All these different platforms, which is a bit of a nightmare because they've all got these slightly different systems that you just have to tweak. And once again, I'm not doing it, but I know it's going on.
I'm assuming it's Kindle Fire and not the Kindle e-reader, because I think the refresh rate of the screen might be a little slow.
It is the original black and white Kindle e-reader with the kind of silver contents button that goes up there. That would be great. Those games that my wife used to play, you could get those on there.
Be perfect for that, wouldn't it? Tell us a bit about Catcha Aliens. If somebody hasn't played it, what kind of game is it?
So the sort of game I like playing, it's very interesting because we were talking at home about the kind of games. So my wife is also involved in the company. As you might know, she's a screenwriter. She writes, at the moment, she's been writing kind of big, blockbuster movies as well as a few smaller personal ones, one of which she's working on now. So she is working on a game for us. The kind of games she plays are much more kind of immersive. I mean, she's big. She plays WoW. She also plays a little bit of Skyrim. She likes that kind of game. And when she doesn't have that kind of time commitment, she'll play time management games mainly. So Tiny Tower, Paradise Cove. There's a new one. Climb up a tree or something.
Climb up a tree.
I live in a tree. I love my tree. Anyway, there's a tree-based time management
tree-based
that she's enjoying at the moment as well. And it's weird because I'm sitting in bed and I'll hear these weird kind of reward noises from my iPad, so I'll hear yippee, ka-ching, these sort of strange noises.
Sure, there's not a guy in there.
No, a guy wouldn't climb up and go yippee, ka-ching. That would be a very, very small guy. Maybe it's one of the puppies. So she plays that kind of game. So that was the kind of area obviously she's gravitating towards. I play games. I either play kind of more basic shoot 'em up games. I play some kind of stuff which has a Japanese affiliation or design. I like that. But I also play the kind of quick. I'm Angry Birds. I'm Temple Run. I'm those kind of games where you pick up and you can play it when you're in a queue. You can play it when you're on the toilet. Those kind of quick bursts. You enjoy it for 3-5 minutes, then maybe put it away and come back to it. So I wanted to do a game like that. And we started doing an endless running game because I was loving Temple Run at the time, and I wanted to do something with a different feel. And we initially had something which I rather liked. Doesn't look anything like what we wound up with, which was a kind of a big lumbering toy trying to escape from a kind of kid's playroom. And it turned out the toy was an alien. We had lots of different backstories for it, but then I realised it was, and it was great fun. It looked great. It had a very different feel to it because it was kind of slower, physics involved in it, then Temple Run is very small and zippy, and this was a big lumbering character. And I think we would have had fun with it. But I realised it was just an endless running game. And I didn't want to do something which was already out there. So then we kind of put a twist on it, and we've come ours is kind of it's not really endless, but it's catching. Hence the title, Catcha, Catcha Alien. So you're actually running through different environments, different planets, but you have to catch lots of these different creatures while avoiding the indigenous population that's paying your wages, and then you can beam yourself up to the ship and go onto another planet. So it's. I hope it's different enough for it to feel fun and feel worth people's while checking it out.
You mentioned playing games on the toilet. I wonder what percentage of people just play games on the lavatory these days.
I can answer that for you because I've done a lot of research.
Have you really?
Yeah, I've spent an awful lot of money getting kind of forms filled in, and I don't know.
Installing cameras.
Yeah.
There must be. I mean, I was thinking of having an iPad kind of like pinned to the wall next to it, so when people go in, they could just help themselves. Yeah. But in these days of the spreading norovirus, is that a great idea?
Probably not.
You can get now a stand that attaches to your toilet roll holder that is an iPad holder stand thing.
As always, someone's ahead of me.
There really is, isn't there? I think it's a significant demographic. You got your core gamers, your hardcore gamers, your casual gamers, your toilet gamers.
Toilet gamers.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really want to admit to being a toilet gamer, would you? I don't think you put
That's
your
not a
hand
box
up
that you tick on a
in
server,
a crowded
is it?
room. Toilet gamers, and everyone else shuffles away from them.
So this is part of you've basically opened up a game studio.
We've got a very small. I mean, to call it a game studio sounds somewhat grand. I mean, there are 3 guys working full time. I go in and throw ideas around. Jane throws some ideas around, although she's behind schedule on 2 movies at the moment, so she's not so active. And my son Harvey, who's also a massive gamer, he came in and he wrote quite a lot of the code as well and got involved in that, and he enjoyed that, so he's involved as well. And we had a sort of brainstorming session yesterday where we worked out the next project that I'm going forward with, which is fun, but it's got a very retro feel to it, but it's also to do with something that I'm involved with elsewhere today. So hopefully that will be fun, and that'll also be free as well when it comes out.
Let's move on and just talk about what else you're up to at the moment, because you're not doing much radio anymore.
I'm not doing any radio at the moment.
Which disappoints me, because I think your radio is your radio show.
When I did radio, I
outstanding.
love doing radio, and I almost I was involved with a group of people who were going to buy a station, and I was going to do a breakfast show for a while, but I just realised that's so much work, and it's like I'm so enjoying doing other things. I mean, I'm doing working on the games, writing comics at the moment, working on a film project idea, working on TV shows as well, and to actually try and do something where you've got the energy. And I'm not getting any younger, unfortunately, although I'm working on that. Got my son working on that. He's studying biomedical engineering. We're going to try and reverse this kind of whole ageing thing. And I said ageing, they're not Asian. I don't think I mean,
There's the headline. We've got the headline.
I welcome the Asian community. Okay. So I really miss doing it. But I want to do the right thing if I'm going to come back. I mean, I'm thinking of doing something where I'm talking with someone once again about very new technology, about a way of doing radio and delivering radio which hasn't been done before, and we might be announcing something like that. But it's so much talk out there, and it's like you talk too early about something and it just disappears. It kind of feels always a bit. It's the equivalent of what do they call when stuff vaporware?
Yes.
So I don't like chatting about stuff if I don't know I'm doing it for sure. But I do intend, if I get the chance, to do more radio at some stage, because I really enjoy that form of communication. I love that medium.
I get the sense though, with writing the comics, that's the job you've always wanted. Like you're doing something that, as a child, you would have dreamed
of. It kind of nearly is. The job I really always wanted was drawing comics, but I'm not a good enough artist. And I could draw, and I kind of lay them out, and I send my thoughts of layouts to people, and I go, yeah. And 9 times out of 10, because you have to be aware of, you've only got a certain amount of real estate to play with in a comic book, especially if you're doing these days all down to 20 pages. But I do some which are 30 and 35, which is kind of stupid, but because it takes so long to get that out, it's twice as long as a normal book. But say you're doing 20 pages, there's only so much space you can take up, so you have to be aware, okay, we've got 4 panels or 5 panels on this page, and if you're telling a story, there's only a number of shots you can do in that, And in the hands of a great artist, they can make almost anything exciting, even if it's just 2 people talking for 3 pages. But you do have to be aware of what you've got. So I'm kind of involved in the layout and the structure. But I do love the writing. I like trying to tell stories. And that's kind of what games can be about. That's obviously what comics are about and films are about. So that's why I'm doing that, really. But I'm having a great time doing it, and I love being part of that community. I've always been part of the comic community in a way, but being there more than just as a consumer, it's a very nice feeling. To actually be talking to other people, and the fact that I get here's the great thing. This is a secret I shouldn't maybe give away. But because I write comics which are printed by a professional comic company, I'm now a comics professional, which means I can get the professional ticket to go to San Diego, which means it doesn't cost me anything.
Nice. That's
and,
good.
You know, and it's not the money. You can't get those tickets.
No.
They're a nightmare. So I urge you all, write your own comic, bring it out, get on that professional list. You win.
Have you got any exciting comics coming up though? What are you working on at the moment?
I'm just finishing America's Got Powers with Brian Hitch. So he's finishing book 6 at the moment. We expanded it from 6 issues to 7 because really I could have wrapped it up in 6, but it felt very rushed. And I wanted it to be. The thing is, if you're working with artists like Brian Hitch, he does those great 2, 3, 4, 5 page spreads that are so beautiful. You want to give him the space there. You don't want to give him a book which is all 6 panels on a page. So I've spread it out. So, and I'm just finishing book 7 now, and I'm working with Ian Churchill, who's an artist, who's also another UK artist, on a book called The Revenger, a tragedy, which is a really gruesome, over the top. It's kind of got, I'm calling it Revenger Tragedy, it's kind of a play on words with the Revenger Tragedy, the Jacobean play, and I'm using kind of like some fairly subtle Jacobean references which aren't necessary, I'm just enjoying them. Like the covers of the 4 colours that were, the Jacobeans believed that the body was filled with 4 liquids, 4 humours that determine what you are, and they had certain colours, they were yellow, blue, red and green, so the covers are yellow, blue, red and green. So if you look at it and you know that stuff, but it's not really necessary, you know, it's just me having fun. But it's really over the top, lots of skin being removed and different skin transplanted, and there's horns involved on a dwarf called Ignacio, and there's murder, and there's sex, and there's a porn star, and an old ancient movie star who's trying to hold on desperately to his career, and other people going.
Based on anyone?
No, but I did start thinking about, I was writing a superhero book about a very rich talk show host who got bored with life and decided that he wanted to become a superhero. He spent his money on high quality tech to do it, and then it got very confusing. Then everyone thought it was this movie star he was interviewing who was like a Stallone character. Who was it? Because he had a bruised face after his guy had a fight, and he got angry because he wasn't getting the credit for being this crappy superhero. But that's on the back burner for now.
So it's interesting, all the comic book work you do, I would have thought that the natural progression for you would be to get behind the camera and start directing films, but it's not something you've ever really been interested in, is it?
Well, I did a bit of TV directing. Directing is hard, and directing is very time consuming.
Turns out.
You know, and it's like, and a lot of the people I meet who say they want to direct, and I'm not saying everyone, obviously, they say they want to direct, I get the feeling they want to direct, not because they really want to direct, it's so they can tell people they're a director. You know, you meet a lot of people in film and TV who, I really want anything. Do you really want to? You know, have you really got? I mean, when you see the guys who really can direct, when you see a piece of work, you think, okay, it's like I saw a film the other day which I didn't like very much, Stoker, but it's Park Chan-wook.
So glad to hear that you didn't like it either.
But I loved his direction.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean? I mean, the story wasn't there for me, and but the acting was fine, but it was incredible. And he really knows how to make a shot work. So even though it was, you know, indulgent and pointless, I thought really it was a nice experience because it looked so incredible. You know, and a lot of those Korean directors, I mean. Korea makes incredible movies coming out of Korea at the moment. So you see that kind of thing, and I don't really think, I mean, I think I could maybe make a sequence work, but I don't really think I've got that eye, you know, and so to go and give yourself, and it's 2 years of your life if you're going to do a movie. To spend 2 years of your life doing something and come out with something which is maybe, you know, like Resident Evil 3 or something, I'd rather have the years back.
It's my favourite film.
Is it? You're a big Uwe Boll fan.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable though, you're happy creating stories and then kind of handing them over to somebody else?
Well, there's a degree of collaboration there, which is rather like in the games world as well, in which you work as a team, and you have to like people, you have to like interacting with people to want to do that. I mean, you know, you could do it on your own, but it would take a lot longer and wouldn't be as good. And there is a comic idea I've been sketching out on me because I like drawing, you know, which I might never publish, but I've been working on this thing about this weird little kid who finds this hat that's been left around for a while, and it's obviously got properties, but maybe it isn't, maybe he's just bipolar. Anyway, and so it's set in the 20s, and I just quite like sketching and trying to do stuff in a scratchy way and working on different inking styles. But yeah, I mean, I like working with people, and I like working, and I've got about 3 or 4 other comics coming up, hopefully this year, 2 with guys who are in Europe, one with a kind of, well, I was working on one book which the artist and I kind of parted company, unfortunately, called Golden Age, about superheroes in a retirement home, which is, now I'm going to do that with this comic, in theory anyway. He said, yes, I'm doing it with this guy who was just a huge comic, not the guy I was talking about earlier, not Jim Steranko, this huge comic book guy from the 70s who I love, and he does great work, so I'm working with him on that. So hopefully that will come out this year as well. So by the end of the year, I think I'll have 3 new books out, in theory. Excellent. I'm really excited about it.
Even the way that film is kind of enmeshed in our psyche, and that video games are becoming enmeshed, do you still find it irritating that comics still seem to be on the sidelines to a certain extent, that it's very difficult to reach a real mass audience with comics?
I mean, it's frustrating that you see people who are incredibly talented creators who don't earn much from their work and often have their work ripped off. And that frustrates me and bothers me, you know, especially, you know, the whole thing about artist rights and whether a company can own the rights to an intellectual property or not. And of course, back in the day, that was sort of the norm, unless an artist had the wherewithal and the kind of financial standing to be able to say no to that. you know, and a few people did. I mean, you know, Edgar Rice Burroughs, he held onto the rights of Tarzan, which allowed him to buy a town called Tarzana. Well, it wasn't called, he named it Tarzan, obviously that would have been a huge coincidence. But you know, but a lot of those guys like Kirby and Dick and all those guys working for Marvel, they couldn't say no because they needed a paycheck and they needed health insurance, especially in America. So they came up with stuff like Captain America, the Fantastic Four, Hulk, Spider-Man, which has gone on to make billions of dollars for a company. You know, and they were struggling, you know, and they had periods in life where they were, and you think that's horrible. So it does bother me in that. But at the same time, part of me likes the fact that it's small, because you know how it is when you've got something which you love and then suddenly everyone's talking about it, you lose that feeling of like, this is mine, you know. And I'm sure, and lots of people in the gaming world feel that way, I think, about their favourite titles, and when noobs come on and start playing it, and it's like they go, yeah, what are you doing? So, but you kind of want it to reach a big audience, because then it's got a life, got a longer life. So it's a kind of mixed thing. I get a bit frustrated when people, you know, they get it wrong. That's what I hate most. I don't mind people enjoying comics, I don't mind people making movies of comics, but when they get it horribly wrong, it's a bit frustrating. When you see the potential for something, it's like Green Lantern could have been great, was pretty horrible experience for everyone, and you know, and that was a hard one to get right always, but they failed just about as magnificently as you could with that, you know. So it's a shame, really, and I feel that's a shame, because I don't want other comic films not to get made because they messed it up, you know. It's I like them reaching a big audience.
Are you proprietorial about certain films then? You said that you don't like kind of, you know, you like having stuff to yourself. Are there other films that you absolutely love that you kind of want to share, but at the same time you want to keep them?
No, you know what? I always want to share. I always want to share, and I always want people to enjoy them. You know, so it's like I'm always giving. I mean, I've given away so many Miyazaki movies to people with kids. You know, I mean, seriously, in my house at home, I've got this TV in my office, which is on a thing like that, so I can move it that way if I'm writing. I can watch it from there. I play games on it as well. But behind it, it's got some storage space, and behind it, literally, I've got 10 Ponyos, 10 Spirited Aways, 10 Howl's Moving Castle. And when people with kids around, I haven't seen it, I get one of each. There you go. Make your children watch that, because they're the greatest family films ever made, greatest fantasy films ever made. I think Spirited Away may be the greatest movie ever made. You know, and
really?
I watched it. Yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be the greatest movie ever made. Seriously, you know, it's faultless. You know, and there's lots of movies I adore, but that's one. So I'm more kind of evangelical about things than proprietorial. I will be saying, watch this, and I love it when you meet someone who should know a film, doesn't. I quite like showing off. Can I name drop magnificently? Okay, I met someone who'd never seen one of my favourite French films, and I was so because it was Steven Spielberg, who you would think would know more about film. And I was interviewing Spielberg for something I was doing, and I was chatting about this film. I said, of course, yeah, you know, I mean, I like him, Bob Le Flambeur. And he said, what's that? I said, well, Bob Le Flambeur. He went, I haven't heard of it. I went, you haven't heard of Bob Le Flambeur, which is this incredible French film. From about 54, something, directed by a guy called Melville, who directed a lot of incredible French thrillers, including Le Flic with Alain Delon, A Samurai with Alain Delon, and this one is just incredible. It's just a wonderful black and white movie which ends with a heist at a casino in Deauville, but it's shot on location. It's an incredible movie. You know, I did a speech about it at the BFI, so that's another film I have about 10 copies of at home, and I'm just giving out to people all the time. So if you haven't seen Bob Le Flambeur, get it. And Flambeur, he's like a petty crook, a gambler, and every night when he goes out gambling all night in Paris, and in his apartment, which is obviously a fantastic apartment, before he goes to bed, he's got a one-armed bandit there, and he just has one last attempt at some good luck before bed every night. Just really lovely touches like that. Great film. Spielberg had never heard of it, so I sent him a copy.
Wow. And
got it back. And then what was brilliant was the copy I sent him was just one of my own copies, and he sent it back. And when I opened it out, there was a note inside to me from Richard Attenborough, who I'd also lent it to. Saying, thanks, this really is a great film. They don't make them like that anymore. So I lend films to people who aren't huge household name directors as well. I don't really think I only do, you know, I'm kind of a bit more generous than that. I'm not sort of sitting around waiting for Quentin Tarantino to call something and send it to him next. Hope he hasn't seen it.
Technology-wise, I'm guessing you've got a pretty nice home cinema.
Not bad, you know, but it's not a huge setup, because I like going to the cinema. We go to the cinema all the time, you know, and I get a lot of stuff sent early, but I like going to the cinema. I like going to a nice cinema. If you go to something like the Curzon or Everyman here in town, or Electric Cinema, where they make it more of an event destination, especially for older people like me, where it's bigger, comfier chairs, you can have a glass of wine and some chocolate buttons, you know. I like going there. But if you want to go and see a slasher movie, something like that, you can't beat something like The View on Finchley Road on a Saturday night. You know, you kind of want kids to be sitting there texting doing this, and they go, what happened? You know, you kind of want that vibe, and that's part of that whole thing about being part of society and communicating with other people. That's what movies are at their best, is when you're there in a big room with loads of other people really enjoying it, you know. And I watch a lot of films at home. I'm always watching stuff at home. Although at the moment I got sent Keith Lemon the movie, and I can't find anyone in the house who will watch it with me. Not one person in the house will watch that with me. Not even the pets.
He's funny. I just don't know if I want to see the movie.
Well, Celebrity Juice is a funny TV show as
Yeah.
well, but I think the film, it's a different animal. That's the thing. It is different. It's hard to move stuff over to that.
Yeah. So is there space in your home cinema setup for the next gen of consoles? Obviously the PS4 has just been announced.
Well, here's the deal. Downstairs in my office, upstairs we've got a kind of kids' room, games room sort of thing with a projector, where my son is going to play FIFA mainly, it seems to me. FIFA and the occasional zombie kind of game. Or sometimes games where there's like 4 people shooting each other. That's it. You know, they run around shooting each other and you'll hear, no, bah, just swearing and shouting and laughing upstairs, and I enjoy that. Downstairs in my office, I've got a thing under the TV with a special hinge that comes down. It's got all the consoles there, but it's a pain in the arse now when you have to upgrade one. Like when I had to go from the Wii to the Wii U, you got to get all the wiring out the back and put it all back in. It's all different cables. So I've got on there, I've got a PS and I've got Xbox and I've got the Wii U and I've got a PC connected to it as well, but not a particularly fast one. It's not like an Alienware. Just an okay one, so I could play that on that if I want as well. So I will obviously upgrade to a PS4 when it comes out.
So are you excited about the technology though, about the PS4?
I am genuinely excited about all this stuff. I'm more excited about what might be coming out hardware based from, say, Valve. You know, what they're doing sounds very interesting to me. And what's this the thing that everyone's looking forward to? The Ocular Rift.
Oculus Rift.
Oculus Rift. I'm looking forward to that. That sounds exciting. Although, speaking as someone who actually bought a Nintendo, what was the Game
Virtual Boy?
Virtua Boy. I had a Virtual Boy when it first came out,
That's
and
hardcore.
I still have residual migraines as a result of that. You know, every now and then, if I move too quickly, I see Wario jumping over a cavern in really bad 3D, and it's like a NAM flashback for me. So, I'm wary of it, but I'm looking forward to it. And it does come to an extent where you think, okay, sometimes maybe we've got it about as good as we need it. I mean, you think there were lots of moves to change cinema in the 50s and 60s, and many of them failed because the cinema owners, the exhibitors, wouldn't invest in the technology. But do we need smell-o-vision? Do we need seats that rumble? Not really. It's not actually going to enhance the movie-going experience that much. Does 3D really enhance it that much? I don't mind 3D movies, but I don't care if they're not in 3D. You know, I went to see The Hobbit in 3D. I thought it was a really boring film. It being in 3D didn't make it any more entertaining for me. You know, it really didn't. So I don't know if we need that. So do you need to be in that world? I don't know whether you need to. Maybe if we get to the stage where you really do feel like you've entered a virtual environment, that would be interesting and maybe a bit worrying, but that would be worth doing. But if you're just playing on a screen, however you dress it up and however you control it, ultimately, joypads work. They work great. They really work well. It's like the typewriter keyboard. That works great. That's why it hasn't really changed for a couple of 100 years. I imagine we'll still be playing with, joypads in a pretty similar form. But you don't want to strap something on your hand and do all that and then sit. You don't need to. Just pick it up. Yeah. It's a perfectly elegant, probably as perfect a solution as you're ever going to get. So I don't think we necessarily need that. So sometimes they're chasing it for the next big thing and the next good thing and the next exciting gimmick thing they sell to people, and we possibly don't need it.
Well, like it or not, next gen stuff is coming. One of the titles that will be coming out on next gen and also coming out for this gen as well is Assassin's Creed 4. The trailer's been released this week. Let's have a quick look at it.
There was a time when I thought myself the deadliest scourge of these seas. Is a fearsome dog that feeds off trouble and turmoil. Fighting like a devil, dressed as a man. Knows his way round every crag and crevice of these islands. And Captain Edward Kenway's your man. For there's more mystery to that man than even I dare ask.
So after all that ridiculous embargo nonsense, the trailer is finally out and we finally know pretty much everything Ubisoft is willing to tell us about Assassin's Creed 4. So yeah, turns out it is pirates. Surprise, surprise, everybody. The trailer's pretty cool though. We see a lot of classic pirate stuff. We see Blackbeard. We see that the star of it is in fact Haytham Kenway from Assassin's Creed 3's dad, Edward Kenway. I think it's pretty exciting, and I'm kind of sad for Ubisoft that it all leaked early.
I think I'm not particularly excited because I just think that pirates are this year's zombies by the look of things. I think everything's going to be pirate related this year. Everything was zombie related for the last couple of years, and it's going towards pirates now. So
Suddenly pirates. But the main thing about Assassin's Creed for me that's always been annoying about it and restrictive is the fact that you're in this beautiful world and you just want to explore it and it doesn't let you half the time. You run up against an invisible wall and the animus goes, no, can't go here. Or you try and do something that's like, no, it's not how you're supposed to do it. Whereas in Assassin's Creed 4, you can basically wander around the whole Caribbean in a ship. It's all seamless. There's no You know, there's no, you can explore properly. Like a pirate, you can find stuff, you can find towns, you're not told to go anywhere anymore. You can explore underwater, you can find sunken treasure. All this sounds a lot more exciting to me than just basically being told what to do and then going and do it, which was the entirety of Assassin's Creed 3 for me.
You're a big fan of Assassin's Creed, Jonathan?
I haven't played it that much. My son's a huge fan. I like the kind of the physical qualities they give in the character. I like the way the character moves and fights and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really getting bored of seeing that guy in that hood running around. I know it's different guys in that hood, but you know what I mean? I don't want to see that guy in that hood anymore for a few years. You know, it's like Bungie with Halo. You think, okay, it's great fun, it's a great game. Do something new now. You know what? But don't say you're never going to do it again. Why don't you say there won't be a Halo for 5 years, but we've got this great game coming in 2 years' time, and then maybe that integrates and takes you into the next Halo. Who knows? I'd quite like to see them rest this guy up. You know, it's like you milk these franchises, and there is inevitably a diminishing return. You know, unless it's so different. But I'd quite like to see one set. I mean, you know, I like pirates. I can watch pirates all the time. I'd quite like to see the pirates kick his ass and use his silly cloak hat for a flag. That would be a good end to it. But I'd quite like to see one set in. Maybe just kind of, when would it be? I guess it would be 1910, something like England, and it could all be all suffragettes, and it's cool suffragettes fighting evil guys in top hats, and the Assassin's Creed can now be a lady in the cloak, and she can be the Assassin's Suffragette Creed, fighting for enfranchisement for women. You know, universal suffrage. That's the next Assassin's Creed. You heard it here first.
Have you heard about the movie they've got in development?
No.
Michael Fassbender's developing it himself to play the character. So would you be more interested in seeing maybe a movie adaptation of the...
You know what, those movies, the number of people I know who've got their finger in a pie and are talking about maybe doing this comic book or this video game or this one or, you know, it's like, it's all talk until it happens. I'd be quite, look, I'd watch Michael Fassbender in anything, you know. I sat through Prometheus, which wasn't great, and quite enjoyed it because of him, you know, and the early scenes with him on the ship were the best scenes, I thought. By the end, when it came a man in a rubber suit running around a studio in Shepperton, I lost interest a little bit, although they're making a sequel to that. So sure, I'd watch him in it, and you can see physically he's got the looks and he looks like he could handle himself, so that's always a good thing. Rather him than Jason Statham. Not that I mind a bit of the Statham occasionally either. You know, Crank 2 was an underrated masterpiece. I'm joking. So yeah, I'd go and see him in it. But I'm not really that interested in video games made into films. I'd rather, you know, make video games as video games, keep those stories there, make, like, you know, I know they're talking about a World of Warcraft film, and I hope it would be great. And I don't. Has it been announced who's directing that?
Yeah, it has, and you know, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duncan
Jones. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I didn't want to say if it wasn't. So
he's a big World of Warcraft fan, which is.
So if anyone can get it right, I think he can get it right.
Yeah.
But I must admit, I'd be more interested in seeing him do something original again. I think really, then try and be forced to work to a template where, to an extent, unless they're giving him a completely free hand, he has to work to certain things that fans will want. Although I'd quite like to see it if you're running around World of Warcraft and they just see someone waiting by a post box, just digging up and down. You see a lot of that in the films, you know, waiting for a delivery of something. Some points that have been grinded out by a poor kid in China for him. But you know, I'll go and see almost anything, but I can see why they will invest money. If they're going to put $200 million into something, which is kind of what it costs these days, why not do it when you think there's an audience of 500,000, you know, or 2 million or 5 million people in each country that want to go and see it? And people will go and see a WoW movie, and it is a brave enough scope. But you know, you think if they made a StarCraft film, you might as well just make a science fiction film, you know. And really, if you're making a fantasy film, you might as well make a fantasy film. Make your Avatar was a great fun film. Essentially, that was a video game on screen, really, but it worked brilliantly. You know, and it wouldn't have worked any better if that had been Halo, which it could have been on the backdrop. You didn't need that.
So maybe what we want is more movies based on board games like Battleship, because that worked.
I'd go and see, even though it might be quite dull, I would go and see a Settlers of Catan film if it had Michael Fassbender in it.
I would definitely see that.
Michael, for a big dramatic scene in which he says, "I need another road. I need to reach the coast. Then I can get more wood." Not that Fassbender probably needs.
I don't want to go there. We've had some feedback about Assassin's Creed 4, Kev.
We've had plenty of it. The first one we got is from a guy called Mark Kay, who's touched on something that we just mentioned, which is, my thought was the annual release of franchises isn't great. I looked to the GTA model instead. You know there's going to be another, but not next year, and most people really look forward to it. It shows that there's more time spent developing to produce a better quality product.
I think we call that Valve time, don't we? It's ready when it's ready.
I think Valve time is the extreme end of the spectrum, but I think I'd still rather have Valve time where you don't know if the game's ever even going to be released, let alone released within a halfway reasonable time frame.
Well, you know, they sent me Half-Life 3 for my approval about 6 months ago.
Oh, yeah?
It's good. I just finished it. It's pretty good.
Oh, yeah?
Pretty good.
What platform?
Pretty good. I'm going to torrent it later on, so look out for that.
How does it end? How does it end?
It ends badly. For everyone but Valve.
Yeah,
no, but you know, when that's probably got to be the most anticipated game right now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I would have thought, okay, and then, but it's worth the wait. And wouldn't you rather wait and it be great than have it now and it be mediocre?
Yeah, but I waited for the Stone Roses second album.
You were in the minority, I believe. That's showing you age.
Isn't it?
It was all right. It was all right.
Really?
Yeah, but
It
wouldn't
wasn't
you
the
rather?
second coming,
Wouldn't you
but-
rather? I mean, yeah, you'd rather them. But see, I think that's a different thing because that's kind of like that's lightning in a bottle trying to get an album right. But I think a game, you can get it right. They can get it right. And like, I don't know if you ever listen to any of the, you know, when you have the sort of walkthrough when you're playing Portal or that, and they're talking about it, or Team Fortress, and they're saying,
the
well,
director's commentary on Valve games is astonishing.
they're great, and it's a great thing they do there. And you realise then the level of care they've put in. They've obviously finished it, or you know, finished writing this game, got it working, played it again, looked at how it worked, played it again, then thought that's too much there, that's not enough there, and that's why it's such a satisfying experience, and it isn't rushed out. You know?
Yeah, you don't want them to have to feel like they have to churn one out each year. Financially, maybe these studios do, but you'd love them to wait until they've got a story to tell. That's what it should be about. The same with movie sequels. You know, have I got a story to tell? Is there another story in this universe? If not, move on to the next one.
And especially with something like Assassins, where you have essentially an infinite number of possibilities because it's based around a machine that puts you in any period of history. Like, you could go anywhere. The thing with Assassins 4 is they started developing it in 2011 when Assassins 3 wasn't even out yet. So they had teams working on 3 or 4 different Assassins at once. I mean, they're obviously not going to be able to give full attention to any of them.
But you know, maybe also those kind of big companies, it's a bit like Hollywood studios in that, and like TV studios to a lesser extent, like where I work, you know, you can be working on something in the period between when it's commissioned and the period when it comes out, all the people at the top of that company have changed. You know, you can be working on a movie for Fox or Paramount, say, and it's, you know, the guy in charge, I love this film, I'm behind it. Fast forward 2 years later and it's finished, there's a guy in charge or a woman in charge that's got no idea why would they commission that, why they spend money on that, you know, and that's what happens I think with those bigger studios, not quite as quickly as that. Whereas if you're dealing with a smaller company, if you're dealing with Valve, obviously, you know, you've got people at the top who actually can decide what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it, and I think there probably is a different imperative for them. It isn't a company that needs to have a return for investors by the end of the year. You know, and I'm not being negative about companies like that, but if you're Microsoft or Sony, obviously at the end of the year they're going to balance the books.
Which is partly why their conferences are quite boring, because they're sitting there talking to their investors rather than to us.
Whereas when you're someone like, well, you know, but you could make them more fun, even. But when you're something, you know, like small, if you are Valve, wait. You're going to have to wait. Sorry, that's the way it goes.
I've got a piece of feedback from George Aldred, who complains that Assassin's Creed 4 looks too similar. George says, I've done ships and shotguns, I've killed the King's Men, and I'm a bit bored of it now. I want Victorian England, World War or Asia, and also bigger battles.
Well, you've had some feedback, or you've got some feedback there about some other places that people would like to see Assassin's Creed set.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm not sure who these are from. I don't know if they've got the names where these are from. Have I got the names?
Highlighted at the top, it should be.
Okay, so is this from Dave Connolly?
Sounds right.
Yes.
Okay, Dave Connolly. Another long email incoming. Lol, that means laugh out loud.
Lots of love.
He said it could work really well as an annual thing, despite being mainly a single-player experience. The problem is they've lingered too long on the story of Ezio, and a lot of people grew tired of the same time period, which I would agree with. I think he's right there. So he said here's some settings and plots that he would suggest. French Revolution, although I think that would still look the same, to be honest, quite similar.
Too much Renaissance.
Yeah, and like too many women in big kind of crinolines walking around. You know, like the last one, the one for the Vita, which was set in New Orleans. I
Yeah,
think you were saying.
Liberation.
Yeah, I played that. That could have been French Revolution, same sort of thing. Cold War.
That's good.
That's interesting. Cold War's a good one. Might be a bit bleak, and it might feel a little bit like a kind of you know, COD kind of game going on there. You know, is it COD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call of Duty.
World War II. Same thing applies, I think, but it might be fun. Victorian London. There seems to be a big, as long as they avoid the cliches of steampunk. Yeah. That's the thing. And also we've got the new BioShock coming, which is kind of set in that world, which looks like Victoriana. And it's very good, by the way. Have you played any of it?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Pretty good.
Ridiculously good.
And he said, and yet they sat, and he suggested things, why do they stay with Ezio for the whole thing? And also, as a wee Scotsman, Dave's a wee Scotsman, he said, I'd love to see something based on the Scottish War of Independence.
Do you know what, Braveheart, we discussed this a couple of weeks back, so I won't labour the point, but come on, Braveheart style, Jacobite Revolution, Scottish Assassin's Creed would be so good. It would be really bloody, it would be really violent, huge battles.
And Mel
Think of all the
Gibson's career
assassinations.
needs rejuvenation. He could
Sure,
come back
he's
and do it, couldn't he? The
I
most
don't-
famous Scotsman of them all.
I don't know whether Mel's coming back. to be honest with
Too
you.
far gone.
But also, if it's Braveheart, you could also have a kind of kiddie mode where you switch it and everyone looks like the girl from Brave instead. Just running around. Lots of really long flowing ginger hair everywhere.
You could have made an amazing game out of Braid, I think, if you got people who really loved it.
Well, they made that temple run kind of thing, didn't
Yeah,
they? Which was fine, but you know.
I imagined like open world sort of, forest exploration, castle built, all this kind of stuff.
Well, I didn't think Brave was that great a movie, to be honest. I think it looked stunning, but I thought the film was a bit lacking. But I would love to see, and this would be an interesting case of something being inspired, then re-inspiring something else. I would love to see a proper kind of Wreck-It Ralph game world. Not the game of Fix It, whatever his name is, but the actual world where you can go from one game to another, and you go from the retro style to the super modern stuff. That would be pretty cool.
Disney Infinity's a bit like that.
Is that what they're doing with that?
Yeah, Disney Infinity, basically you can play with any of the Disney movies that they release, and they come like as toys, like a Skylanders. So like they've got Cars, The Incredibles, Monsters Inc., etc., and you move between all the worlds.
That sounds fun.
And also you can make your own stuff using everything from all the worlds and make your own like crazy mashups.
Yeah, I like the sound
Really
of that.
cool idea.
Last week on the show, we were talking about EA's decision to include microtransactions. Have you heard about this? Which game is it? Dead Space 3?
It's the start of it, yeah.
Yeah, you basically, you can upgrade your guns easily, and you don't have to grind.
You pay them.
You pay them a
Extra
little bit more, and some people are for it, some people are against it. Phil Natcham's written in. He says, "Well, I actually argued that it was like having half a screen shut down during a movie." And you have to pay extra to get the other half of the screen opened up. But Phil Matcham's actually saying he doesn't think that comparison makes much sense, since microtransactions don't provide a more real experience. Unlocking extra skins, extra items, extra weapons, or leveling up faster does not make the experience more real. You can usually enjoy the game without these extras.
Can you get those extras without paying for them, though?
Yeah, it just takes much longer.
Yeah.
So if you can earn them in-game, then I think he's got a point. If you can earn them in-game, fine. If you want to buy them, people have got to pay for these games. They've got to monetize them, and the bigger companies need to make a profit, of course. But they need to monetize the game. If that's the way of doing it, fine. I would have thought if you're already paying for the game, to have that on top seems a bit odd. It seems a little bit
£40
greedy.
plus.
Yeah. If you're paying 40 quid already, then really it should be gettable without it taking you a year of your life to grind it out there.
And if this works for them, will it not start creeping more and more into becoming more like what you're describing?
Yeah.
If those initial microtransactions do work.
I think that would piss people off too much, though. I mean, the thing is, I'm with him on EA stuff. I think generally EA stuff's quite well implemented. Like, microtransactions are only bad when they're done really badly. And if EA starts doing them really badly, people will just stop.
But maybe they're trying to step towards the day when they give the game away free. People are getting to the stage where they want it for free. Maybe they're just preparing the way and opening up the kind of revenue stream. Yeah. So it's like, okay, here's the new game for you. Here's the new big game that has cost us 100 million to make. We hope you will buy enough hats to pay for this, which they will. People
Sitting there
will.
with graphs of hats.
It's just all about the hats. You've got a bit more feedback on the microtransaction story.
Let me find this. Hold it. This is from David Merritt. And he talks about different games, but then he goes, more serious note, EA's decision to integrate microtransactions, he finds it somewhat worrisome. Here's why. Their best, microtransactions, when used elegantly and subtly, something which EA's proposed blanket use hardly suggests they will be. Although, they're not doing it yet, so he's kind of criticising something they haven't done yet. I'm already bombarded with adverts when I hit the dashboard, so the idea that in every EA title I might be pestered to buy cosmetic tat or worse, game-breaking shortcuts is not something I'm looking forward to. He's quite angry about this, I think, in advance, even though it hasn't happened yet. While some have pointed to the arcades to show these strategies are nothing new, games have changed a large amount in different years. They're no longer purely gameplay-driven high-score affairs, but narrative-led, closed experiences, unlike a faraway low-investment app, are something which I want to feel is a complete product. He says they're not inherently evil, but without proper thought they might end up being bolted on inappropriately to games which wouldn't benefit from and undermining players' enjoyment. He's got a point, but I think he's dealing very much in the, he's hypothetically creating situations that are going to trouble him rather than dealing with what's actually going on, because he's saying they might. It's like, if they do, sure, come back, get angry again. Till then, just relax, Dave. Enjoy a little mini game, a little throwaway app game of the sort that I spent a year working on. Huh? Throwaway, was it?
Maybe something where you've got to catch an alien. Like that.
Well, you can buy stuff in game as well. But it's free now, so that's fair enough.
All right then.
I have some non-microtransaction related. I've got a movie question here actually from Adam Wrigley. It's quite a blunt, short email. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 is coming out. What do you think? What do you think, Jonathan?
I'm surprised. I sat through the first one.
Did you not like the first one?
What? The first one was great.
I thought it was great.
Terrible. Well, the first one was terrible. I didn't even talk to you about the first one. It made me get really unhappy again. I thought this was going to be a safe place here. That's a trigger word for me, Claudia. I thought it was terrible. It was good 3D, but terrible film. The whole sub-story with him and the father and all that trope, which was just so bolted on, unbelievable and unearned. I hate movies like that. Like, I like animated movies in which there's emotion and you engage with it, but it has to be earned. It has to feel genuine and real. That felt to me like 4 people in a room, executives said, okay, well, we need him to have a problem with his dad, so then he wins his dad's love back at the end. It's an American.
That's good.
How do we do that? Well, you can, and it's like it just felt really forced, and I disliked it for that reason.
Did you dislike the mum stuff in Brave for the same reason? Like,
I disliked the main kind of like emotional trope as I saw it in Brave for that reason, because it felt to me once again very manufactured. Whereas you look at something like Spirited Away, and we're back to obviously a masterpiece, surprising, unusual, child separate from both the parents, and the parents both acting boorishly, and the parents not having learned anything by the end. And that was interesting and refreshing, and very much, if you take away the kind of fantasy allegory of it, very much how children regard their parents. Very clever, very deep, very subtle, very rich and enhancing, but not in any way predictable. Whereas but a lot of the American studio animated films come out and you think, okay, I see what it is. So this kid needs to win back his father's love because the father thinks the kid can't do this, and the kid will do this by the end, and then, if you know where the movie's going from the beginning of the film, sure, you can still enjoy the ride, but it's not something that you're going to want to see the sequel to.
maybe all American movie people have massive daddy issues.
I imagine a lot of them have, or they just think, okay, this is a very, very convenient and easy narrative thing to put in place. And that's what I think it is really. We need something in the first act for the hero to, and he doesn't even know what he wants yet. By the end of the second act, now he knows what he wants, but he can't get it anymore. Third act, he got it. Whereas Japanese movies often have what they consider to be a 4-act structure, which is far more interesting and far less immediately rewarding, but gives you something to think about on the way home.
Interestingly, it's kind of the same with games, I think, because Japanese games with emotion, it's either very, very under the surface and subtle, or completely all there all the time. Like in Ni no Kuni, in the first 15 minutes of that, the protagonist's mum dies.
Yeah, no
and
spoilers
it's not well. Everyone knows
right.
that. It's
But that
15
surprised me.
minutes.
Didn't it surprise you when you were playing it? And I went, oh wow.
It did a bit, but I mean, I thought it was quite. The way it was handled was very unsubtle. I mean, I think he literally says the words "Mommy, don't leave me."
But I like the fact then that then he cries for 3 days.
Yeah,
and then finally
it gets much kind of
Mr. Drippy, which is, I don't know whether they understood, but translating, I don't know, that's a great name for a child sidekick anyway. But the weird Mr. Drippy with the Welsh accent comes in. I don't know what regional accent they use in Japan. Presumably they use some old
Osakan,
Japanese.
I think.
Did they? Yeah, but hello, Mr. Drippy. And then and I quite liked all that. I thought that gave it not a depth so much, but a kind of, just an element of surprise that you wouldn't get in an American game.
It was kind of a game about him dealing with depression, to be honest, because obviously, he's crying alone in his room, and he escapes to a fantasy world to which his toy has taken him, in which he might get his mother back.
Why did they think gamers would relate to that in any way? How silly of them.
I know, right? I have another piece of feedback. This piece of feedback is from Gilbert Botham. And he says, "Hey guys, I just wanted to tell you as a new listener to the podcast 3 things. 1, I'm in love with all your accents." We have quite a few American listeners.
Oh, they like that.
They find us novel.
I wonder if they like Jonathan's American accent.
Yeah.
Hey baby, what's cooking?
Number 2.
Was it?
Yeah, I can do them all. They're all the same, of course, but I just say they're from different parts of that.
Number 2, you guys are freaking hilarious. I work at a library where I listen to the podcast. I always laugh out loud and get weird looks from people, so thanks for that.
And that's mainly directed to me.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is definitely the funniest of the group. Number 3, this one is for Keza. I don't know why you've given me a question to myself, but sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ich lerne Deutsch auch in meiner Universität und ich freue mich, dass Sie auch sprechen. Yeah, I do speak German. Yeah. I do, thanks Gilbert.
Was anything rude in there, or just...
No, it was just, do you speak German? I learned German at uni.
Well, send us a rude question in
Send us rude words in German. Send us a rude question.
Can you read that out in German, but with a Japanese accent?
Don't mess with my mind, dude.
That's tough. Do you speak Japanese as well?
Yeah, I lived in Japan for a year and a bit.
Sukoshi wakarimasu. Tamamado josu jarimasen.
So desu ka?
Oh, motto.
What just happened?
We could keep this going.
I don't know.
No, that's kind of exhausted me, really. I can ask you what you're doing later. Kyo wa nani o shimasu ka?
今日はゲームをしています。
Oh, so desu ne.
そうですね。So that could go on for a while.
When in doubt, just say so desu ka or so desu ne. That's it.
そうですね。
Or ano so desu ka.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
What is
like-
the ano? What is that?
It's
Is that
it's the
a-
equivalent of
It's like it's kind of polite sometimes, but it's funny because Japanese. If you're standing near people, you go ano. They all turn around,
Yeah.
ready to answer a question.
the main problem I had in Japan was that in Japan you're supposed to speak very high if you're a woman. They were trying to get me to speak like that, and that's not my natural
Don't you
register
have to have
at all.
enormous eyes as well?
Yeah, I had to wear things at night that kept them open. But yeah,
So, anime girl.
but
A lot of boys are very excited right now watching me do this. I bet.
Apart from those listening to the audio
Yeah.
on the podcast.
They're really disturbed.
they're like, is he being racist?
Really upset.
Can't tell on the audio.
I've already had an Asian ship earlier today. You've got to be
Yeah,
careful.
what's he doing with his eyes? Should we move on?
Let's move
Anyway,
on. Couple of big movies out there. Couple of big games out. I'm going to do that bit again. Couple of big games out this week, Kez.
Yeah.
Lara Croft reboot Tomb Raider. You excited about this, Jonathan?
I've played about an hour of it already.
And?
It was fun. I thought it was good fun. It was annoying. They sent me a preview on the play, so I played it. And now when I want to play it, I've got to play back and learn all those
Very, very
early skills again. They're so annoying. But I thought it was good. It's interesting what they're doing. It's kind of an origin story. You're seeing how she became Lara Croft. I think it's fun. It's if anything needed rebooting with a little bit of kind of an added extra, it was that you couldn't just put in a new adventure. I don't think we could really have followed, no matter how pert and delightful, but just to follow some khaki-clad buttocks around another cave would have been a little bit boring. So it's kind of it feels good. It feels like an interesting thing. And I think other gamers, I'm sure other game companies will learn from that and do the same sort of thing. I bet we'll see a lot of back to basics like Batman Begins, but maybe that's what they should do with Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
But I everyone knows I love Tomb Raider. I gave it a 9.1 for IGN.
Wow, that's pretty high score.
Yeah, especially as I'm a hard ass on reviews. But the thing about Tomb Raider that gets me, I think, on a personal level, is that Lara Croft, for me, over the past 15, 20 years, has been everything from the absolute embodiment of female objectification in video games to the only relatable female that we have in video games. And depending on who's been handling her and which game she's been all over that spectrum. And I think this is a very firm statement of this is who she is. And we've never had really who she is. We've had what she represents, but not who she is.
Yeah.
And this one's very much about who she is, which is great.
So it's character led in a different way for that.
Yes.
And she's pretty.
She is very pretty.
She's still pretty.
Yeah.
She's so pretty.
I'd love to see the Lara Croft. The next one is she should be 97.
Old Lara would be amazing, but old Snake in Metal Gear Solid
Tomb
4.
Raider.
Get the girl
That'd be
from
cool.
Amor to play
She's
her.
kind of given up on society.
Yeah.
She lives in a cave a long way away now, but she has to come out of retirement. If Stallone can do it, why can't Lara Croft?
Absolutely.
SimCity's out this week as well. You a Sim fan?
Not really. My kids played it a lot. They loved it, but I never really got into it. Once again, it's that kind of it's a bit like time management. It's a bit like a kind of, you won't find me growing crops in Farmville. You won't find me buying bins for a fictional house in SimCity. It's like, I'm just not into that kind of game.
This is the first SimCity in I think, I might be wrong, but it's since SimCity 2000, so it's city planning. The guy who is at the head of IGN actually studied urban architecture because of SimCity. That's a fun fact.
The snake is eating its own tail.
SimCity is really good. It's ridiculously compulsive. You lose 6 hours easily by just starting. The only thing about it though is that it relies very heavily on online. So when you're in your city, you're relying on your neighbours to trade with and for commuting and immigration and stuff like that. And the thing is, if one of your friends stops playing after a couple of months, then your city's going to suffer because their city's going to be going to shit.
Just like the real world again. A friend of mine I know, who I can't know, but he's quite well known writer. He used to live alone before he got married, and he learned a lot about how to be an adult, and he was already quite old from playing Sims, not SimCity.
Keep yourself clean, eat regularly.
He didn't know that. He didn't understand why his kitchen was sort of full of flies, and he realised he didn't have a bin. And it was only when people started dying in his Sims house because they didn't have a bin that he realised he needed to buy himself a bin. It's a true story. And then he got a girlfriend after that, so everything turned out great.
One of my friend's mums apparently spent about a year playing The Sims instead of actually doing any stuff around the house. It was like an addictive spiral.
That's just minging.
Yeah, it didn't go down so well, I don't think.
I have some films coming out this week.
You personally?
We have Parker, Jason Statham's new movie. Have you seen this one yet?
Well, I've seen part of it. Here's the thing, I love the Parker character. And have you seen the Parker comic books by Darwin Cook?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
No.
They're just about the best comic books out there right now. They're published by IDW. They're incredible. Darwin Cook did a little bit of work at DC. He did some Batman work. He rebooted The Spirit recently, which was the Will Eisner character that Frank Miller made into one of the worst movies in the history of cinema. And he's been doing the Parker things. And Parker's been used in cinema before. There was a classic Lee Marvin movie called Point Blank years ago, directed by John Boorman, which is pretty close to being a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a very brutal, unforgiving character.
Yeah, Payback with Mel Gibson was the same
Very
character.
noir, yeah, and that was kind of a mistake, a misstep, I think. But apparently that was recut a couple of times, and Darwin Cook told me he'd seen an early cut of that which worked. So I'm kind of looking forward to this, but I'm kind of wary because I don't think necessarily Jason Statham and J-Lo together are the people to make this work. No. I'd rather have seen this kind of like, gritty and young and low budget, and that would have been hardcore and good, I think. But I'll give it a chance, certainly, because the Parker character is great, and the books, once again, I cannot recommend the comics hardly enough. And they're designed beautifully. He kind of uses design ideas from the period, and sometimes you'll see something as if it's in a magazine from the period, and then like a comic book or a kid's book from the period. Just beautiful, real works of art.
Jason Statham, though, his character does put on a Texas accent in the film.
Oh.
It's not good. He's never been an accent man anyway.
Not really.
And he plays a character putting on an accent, and it doesn't go well.
I'm trying to think where I've heard an example of an Englishman doing an American accent.
You're going to think, well, apart from me and Dick Van Dyke, there are no other pretenders to the throne, but the Staith will lead the way, I imagine. Because Staith speaks like this, and he's like this. Oh, yeah. I dare you. So he's going to be, howdy, partner. What's up?
How's it going?
I've been out getting balls in from the field all morning. I'm knackered.
That's actually better. We've got Soderbergh's new movie Side Effects, which I haven't seen, so can't comment on really.
I haven't seen either, but Soderbergh's always going to be worth watching. Always be worth a look.
And apparently it's his last film until the next one.
That's nonsense. He gave up about 10 years ago, didn't he? He quit from cinema, and then he came back with Aaron Brockovich, so he keeps giving up, and then he'll find something inspiring.
He'll be back.
What was that black and white war movie he made?
That with George Clooney.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but what I loved about it is they used the technology from that period.
That's right.
So the
lenses
sound, it
from
was
that
mono
period.
sound, it really looked beautiful,
yeah.
and the story was quite good.
Okay, I thought it was a bit slow.
Bit slow. Bit slow.
Robot and Frank is coming out, which is brilliant. Frank Langella, about a relationship between a guy and his robot butler. And his character used to be a gentleman thief, and he realises that the robot can actually help him to pull off robberies.
No spoilers.
That's really good, well worth seeking out. And Oz the Great and Powerful. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it. I've not heard great things. I'll be honest with you. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. I've known Sam since I loved Evil Dead 1, and I got in touch with him. I made a documentary series on him, which I think you can find online.
I have seen it on
and
YouTube.
I interviewed him in between Evil Dead 2 and 3, and he was making a film set in a shopping mall that he was only producing. He was working on the scripts for Darkman, which I love the Darkman movies. They'd make a great video game. Darkman characters, great with all the disguises. So I'm really looking forward to it. The trailers look great. I think the trailers look great and imaginative, but I said I haven't heard the best things yet, but I will definitely go and see it.
Yeah, we've liked it. We've given it about a 7.8 out of 10, 7.5. Pretty good. No, better than Alice in Wonderland because it's obviously been made by the same studio. It's got the same kind of technology at work there. The trailers look very similar, but I think there's much more going on in this one.
I liked it. You mean Burton's Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
I liked that though. I thought it was fun. I thought it was different. I thought it had some great ideas. It was a bit long, as is often the case, but Burton's got that kind of visual style, which is true.
Gave me a headache.
Yeah, it was a little bit. There were moments. I mean, it could have ended sooner, and I wouldn't have complained. But I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
So we're rapidly running out of time, but before we go, I'd be interested to know, we're only in March. I'm just wondering what is going to happen over the rest of the year, over the next kind of 9 months or so. Movies and games that you personally are looking forward to that are coming out.
BioShock, which will be out, when is it, summer, early summer?
March.
Okay, March.
End of March,
even sooner. Okay, I already played about now and that, and I really enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. That would be good. Half-Life 3, as you know, is due, I believe it's officially now April. I've made that up, but a few people got very excited for a second then when I said that.
Wait, what?
So I might, but I don't know. I don't know what the big release is due this year. I mean, I'm probably going to be focusing on, I'm going to try and work my way through some of the smaller games, and I'm going to be looking for more independently type stuff and maybe I'll finally finish that Nico Nuni or Nuno Nini. That's the one. Yeah, I'll finish that one. Oh boy, so I'll finish that probably, but all the big games that come out, I'll give them a go. I mean, a lot of time I just sort of dip my toe in and don't play too long. But I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the Nintendo Wii U coming up with something which actually uses its potential properly. At the moment, I don't think it has. I think it's a great piece of hardware. I think it's got great potential, but I don't think any of the games really. And there'll be a few. Is the Pikmin out for that yet?
Yeah, Pikmin's going to be out in the summer, I believe.
I saw an unplayable demo that I saw, and it looked incredible. And normally they get that right. And Pikmin's such a great game, so I'm looking forward to that.
And what about of the superhero movies coming out this year? Any your
Well,
looking forward to?
I know Josh is over filming Avengers 2 already because I was invited down to the set, but I'm not going to go because it kind of spoils it when you go and see the movie. I mean, I went down to the set of almost all the Bond movies, and almost without exception, when you then see it on screen, you go, oh, where was I standing? Well, I was over there. And it kind of spoils the magic for you, so I avoid that, although it's great, it's exciting, the thought, oh, Captain America's in town. But I'm not going to go over and do that. So I'm looking forward to Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Very much, because Downey's great in that role, of course. It'll be interesting him with Shane Black. Looking for Avengers 2, but I guess that's next year. Is Guardians of the Galaxy next year as well?
Next year. This year we got Man of Steel.
That I've heard great things about that. A few people have seen that, have said it's great.
Really?
So I'm looking forward to that. Well, it's a good combo. I thought Nolan's Batman's film, all of them were wildly overrated, frankly, and I didn't enjoy that. And I think I would like to see a Batman film like that. Because you can't really say, and then you had him, and then you had Bane. Batman, whoa, I'm going to do this. So I couldn't understand either of them. It was just horrible. Thank God they had Catwoman in the film. So that was I think an unrewarding experience. But Nolan is obviously Inception. I thought was about as good as those kind of big, high concept but big studio movies get. So I imagine he can make it work.
And the one I'm looking forward to this year is Kick-Ass 2. And obviously your wife was involved in the first one.
She's not really that heavily involved in this one.
No. I
mean, they're working on a new film together, her and Matthew, at the moment, which is going to be great, I think. Some of the scenes they've come up with, some of the ideas are brilliant. But no, she wasn't really involved in it, but I have seen quite a lot of footage of that, and it looks great. I mean, what I've seen so far looks really good. And Jim Carrey, who I've heard has just signed on for another superhero movie, but I'm probably not going to talk about that. But Jim Carrey looks great in it.
Yeah.
You've got great supporting cast and some great British actors in it as well. Andy Nyman's in that, who's really good.
I went down on set, and I agree with Jim about Jim Carrey, and that the woman who plays Mother Russia, I think, could be a big breakout character as well.
She's the director's girlfriend, though, isn't she? She is.
No, not the mother, not the big Russian lady. The director's girlfriend is like a 20-something
I was
American
surprised
woman.
when I heard it was Mother Russia.
There's a different
woman.
woman.
Well, I saw him in a good light then. Now I've gone away. But I hope it does well. I loved the first Kick-Ass movie.
Agreed,
I kind of felt like they told the story, and so I wonder whether it's going to feel like. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether Hit Girl works, because she really only worked because she was kind of damaged, but essentially an abused person trapped in a relationship who didn't know what she was doing. Whether she'll now work now that she's kind of, I mean, I don't know how old she is in the movie, but Chloe, of course, she's about 16 now.
Yeah.
Who's playing her? So whether she'll work in the movie I know initially when they were making the movie and they went to the studio with scripts, one of the things that prompted Jane and Matthew to stay independent with it is all this is, we love it, make Hit Girl 17 sexy, and they're going, no, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
That if she's 17 16, that is it doesn't work.
Yes.
But if she's a kid who doesn't know any better, and that's what makes it cool, and makes it like you want to see her freed from that, but you want to see them, you want to see how it plays out. So I don't know whether or not Hit Girl is going to be the focus that she was in the first film, because of course she's an adult now essentially.
Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Good luck with Catcha Aliens. I hope
you.
There are many billions of downloads, and you can buy hats.
If you download one, if you like it, buy something.
Yeah.
If you don't, don't. That's it. It's kind of a very honest transaction, really.
Very democratic, really.
Well, when I buy games, if I like them, like I've spent a lot of money on what's it called, Kingdom Guard. Is it Kingdom Guard? Is that one?
I don't know that one.
It's that one where maybe it's not Kingdom Guard. Anyway, it's a great game where you're trying to stop people getting to your kingdom. I think it is
Tower
Kingdom.
defense.
It's a tower defense game, but because I like it, I bought a lot of big bombs. It's quite expensive bombs. Blown up a lot of soldiers.
I actually spent money on Curiosity. I genuinely did. Spent it on a chisel. Curiosity?
Yeah, that's the Molyneux thing, isn't it?
Yeah, Molyneux's big cube. In a moment of madness, I actually
you
bought
get any
a chisel.
closer to the centre of the cube?
No, I don't think
You know what's in the centre, don't you?
Well, we were thinking maybe a video of Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, naked.
Yeah, that was what we
It
had.
is.
Never
Naked,
mind.
laughing hysterically. Holding a chisel. A real chisel.
And that's pretty much it for this week. Jonathan, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Let us know what you thought of today's show. IGN UK feedback at IGN.com or Facebook and Twitter, IGN UK. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching.